Welcome into the DNVR Rockies Podcast. I am your host, Patrick Lyons, and on today's show, very excited to talk with my good buddy, Manny Randhawa, about the Rockies, their trade deadline. Did they do enough? What was actually at stake here? We know they brought in a ton of pitching prospects, which was very promising. They increased their quality, pretty good. But again, could they have possibly done more? We'll talk about things around the game of baseball as we love to do. But of course, we'll start as we do each and every Monday, Minor League Monday, with our Colorado Rockies prospects of the week. Tip of the cap right away for the month of July to Angel Chavi, a reliever with Spokane, who had 11 games pitched out of the pen, 2.92 ERA, 16 strikeouts. He really broke out last year in Fresno as one of those really young and promising bullpen arms. And then Skylar Messenger, who twice in the month of July was our prospect of the week with Low A Fresno. He was .326 at the plate in 22 games with 8 homers and 28 RBI. Absolutely remarkable for the Colorado product. Love to see that from him. But in AAA, our prospect of the week, this was a tough one. It was close. Carl Kaufman did a nice job on the mound. You like to see that for the Rockies pitching, but it was Hunter Stovall, infield, outfield, utility guy. He is a player that, to a man, everyone that has played with him in the organization has said Hunter Stovall is a dude. He is a grinder. He's a baseball guy through and through. At 26 years old, he's having a really solid season with the Isotopes there in AAA. Had 2 homers, 9 RBI, 2 stolen bases on Sunday. Had his 24th multi-hit effort with 2 RBI. It's actually his 9th multi-RBI game of the season, extended his hit streak to 6 games. And he's a player that's a real positive story to see for this organization. They actually had traded him away at one point for James Pazos, dealt him to the Phillies organization, and he came back into the fold. And he's not just doing it for himself, but he's doing it for his teammates, a real team player. That would be a nice story. I think there's a shot that we could see him debut before this season is out. Daniel Montano, 2 home runs this week. Jimmy Herron in short supply, 500 batting average with 5 RBI, 3 stolen bases. Carl Kaufman, as I mentioned, 5 2/3 innings pitched, only gave up 1 run. And PCL type quality starts. That's 6 innings pitched and 4 earned runs allowed for left-handers Ben Bramer and Josh Rogers. New acquisition, Justin Brule, who came over from the Dodgers at the deadline. 1 1/3 innings pitched, did not allow a run. And then a player that Josh Sushan did mention on Friday's show with Susie, Evan Justice, left-handed reliever. Another scoreless week for him. He continues to look really sharp. Righty Nick Kennedy did the same as well. In Albuquerque right now, they are second place in the PCL East behind the Oklahoma City Dodgers. Oklahoma City has a ton of fringe big leaguers, many of whom actually aren't on the 40-man roster. Pat Valleca and David Dahl are there right now. I was surprised to see them still kicking around. And with the Dodgers, Steven Duggar, Ken Giles, Robbie Erlin, you might remember some of those names, all with the Oklahoma City Dodgers in AAA. But the postseason rules state that if a team wins the first and second half, which it looks like the Dodgers probably will in AAA, the team with the second best record in the second half will go to the postseason, which means the Isotopes, they are gunning for a postseason berth this year in AAA. And that's pretty important because the Isotopes really haven't done very well since they've been an affiliate for the Rockies. 1 game under 500 in 2016, the second year that the Isotopes were with the Rockies. So it's kind of a big deal for them to do that. If you want to look at Rockies history, the only AAA club that ever won the Pacific Coast League postseason was the Colorado Springs Sky Sox back in 1995. Sky Sox won it in 92, but they were an affiliate with Cleveland back then. Sky Sox also went to the postseason in 94 and 97. Outside of that, not a ton of postseason ball in AAA for the Rockies. This year, it very well could change. So keep an eye on those box scores, not just for the players, but for the end results as well. The results have been fantastic in AA for Jordan Beck, our Hartford Yard Goats player of the week. 333, nice job at the plate, 2 doubles, no home runs, but 8 walks to 1 strikeout. How about that? Putting the ball in play, taking his walks when he gets them. I don't know that we'll see him up in AAA. That could be a bit much. Maybe the final week of the season, you see that, and an invitation to big league camp next year for Jordan Beck after just having been drafted in 2022. I think it's reasonable. Hartford, worst record in the Eastern League so far this year. I thought they would be a lot better with all that talent they had gotten from Spokane. Some of the guys from Fresno, even that won the California League last year. I thought they'd be up. Unfortunately, not the case. Honorable mention to Yankiel Fernandez. Did a nice job in 2 games since a brief stint on the 7-day IL. Hunter Goodman, Julio Carreras did a nice job. Hard week for the starting pitchers at AA for the Yard Goats. Good week for relievers, Stephen Jones, Blake Goldsberry, and Victor Vodnik, who had another scoreless week in 3 games. He's up to 5 innings pitched, no runs allowed, 3 hits, 1 walk, 7K for probably one of the bigger prospects that the Rockies acquired at the trade deadline from Atlanta in the Pierce Johnson deal. So Victor Vodnik, he was a guy, he was the name that came out of both Bill Schmidt and Bud Black's mouth last Tuesday at the trade deadline as someone to possibly keep an eye out on. Left-handed pitcher Carson Palmquist for High A Spokane, 6 innings pitched, 4 hits allowed, 1 run, 9 strikeouts, improves to 7-2 with a 3.92 ERA in High A Northwest League, which the league average is 4.53. So he has been better than that. You hear 3.93 and you go, it can't be that good. No, it's been quite good. Again, only 2 losses, 7 wins for Carson Palmquist. Honorable mention to Jared Candy, who does it again. Mason Green had a good start. On the hitting side, Nick Kent, 3 home runs, and good weeks for Jamari Baylor, Ryan Ritter, Braden Ward. Spokane has been 5 games under 500 this season. Not bad. They've got a chance to possibly sneak into the postseason, similar to what Albuquerque is doing right now. Vancouver Canadians, the Toronto Blue Jays affiliate there in High A in the Northwest League, they're probably going to run the table and do that. So Spokane, about 5 games back of sneaking into the postseason and doing that. So seeing if some of those guys from Fresno last year can kind of redeem themselves after getting bounced pretty quickly in the California League postseason. Now in Low A, Michael Prosecki, left-handed starting pitcher. He was actually just announced as the California League Pitcher of the Week. First time of the season for him. 6 innings pitched, only gave up 2 hits, only walked 2, no runs allowed, 11 strikeouts, lowers his season ERA to 3.06. He's 9-5 in 16 starts, and Fresno has been pretty unbeatable in the second half, 26-8 entering the weekend. You also like to see great starts from Mason Albright in his Rockies debut, one of the 2 pitchers that came over in the CJ Cron Randall Grichuk deal from the Angels. He had 5 innings pitched, did not allow a run, 9 Ks, and great starts from Caleb Franzen and Connor Stain. Those 4 guys that I mentioned, Prosecki, Albright, Caleb Franzen, and Connor Stain, they combined to throw 22 innings and give up just 1 run. Very promising for the Rockies pitching prospects. They got a long way to go. They're only in Low A, but still, that is definitely good news. Closer Zach Agnos, draft pick out of the 2022 draft, 3 saves and 3 chances. Jesus Bugarin, Skylar Messenger, and EJ Andrews did a really, really nice job at the plate overall. And if you're looking for a really, really nice bourbon, you got to check out Breckenridge Distillery in Breckenridge, Colorado, up in the mountains. If you're trying to beat the heat during the summer, go for a ride. Check out their distillery. It's amazing. Breckenridge Distillery, the official bourbon of the Denver Broncos, widely known for their blended bourbon whiskey, a high rye mash, American-style whiskey, après anywhere. Seriously, they're provided in all 50 states. You can go to BreckenridgeDistillery.com to find out how you can get home delivery of their award-winning Breckenridge spirits. They've won all kinds of awards, countless amounts. They got an amazing restaurant, too, up there in Breckenridge. So check it out, BreckenridgeDistillery.com. And if you want to turn $1 into $200 of bonus bets, you got to head over to Bet365. You download the app, you deposit $10, and you claim $200 in bonus bets as soon as you place a bet for $1. You download the Bet365 app, and you use promo code DNVR when you sign up. They've pioneered live in-game betting. They have just under 1 million live stream events each and every year. They're a proud partner, in fact, of the Colorado Rockies. Get a better price on shows and markets for select games with the Bet365 Boost or Bet365 Super Boosts. And right now, they got a cool thing going on where the Bet365 baseball early payout offer, it's basically you're a winner if your team goes up by 5 runs or more. You don't have to worry about the bullpen blowing a lead or some kind of miraculous comeback. Don't have to worry about that because it's an early payout offer with Bet365. Parlay and same-game parlay selections will be marked as winners. So download the app and use code DNVR365 when you sign up. Must be 21 or older and physically located in Colorado. Please gamble responsibly. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call or text 1-800 gambler. Well, if you want a sure thing, you have to talk to my guest coming up here in just a second, Manny Randhawa. He's got some minor league baseball experience for anyone that may not know. He did cover the AAA Indianapolis Indians there as he was coming up and doing a little internship when he was working for MLB.com. Really want to pull his ear on if whether or not the Colorado Rockies did enough at the trade deadline. I think by all accounts, you look and you say, well, when you pull off that many trades, even again, the Justin Brule deal was really nice, bringing in a guy that can help this roster this season and then also going forward too, because he's got several more years of club control. That's pretty helpful to have going forward. But beyond that, the pitching prospects that they got, nobody that's a top 100 prospect. In fact, I think the highest prospect in the Rockies now is probably 20th, that being Jake Madden. So, they've got some of those guys there, but it was more about the quantity that they got in general. Manny, what was, I know your partner over on the Park Adjusted podcast there, Mark Knutson, did just write a little bit about the Rockies trade deadline. What were your thoughts? How do you think the Rockies did overall? Obviously, making as many deals as they did is a positive, but did you have a thinking that maybe they should have done more or they should have gotten more perhaps?
Yeah, in short, yes. Overall, I think they did okay. I think that the trades of Crone and Grichuk, the return, again, these things are always, won or lost in hindsight. We can't really know, you get all the memes of won the trade, lost the trade, all that kind of stuff. You guys had a good one about winning the trade after the taking 2 out of 3 from the Cardinals. That was excellent. But you can't really know for sure, but you can grade these things based on what you know at the time. And I think they did fine with those. I would give them like a B for what they did with Crone and Grichuk in particular, and getting those pitching prospects, Madden and Albright. I think they're ranked 20 and 21 now in the system per MLB pipeline. And then I think that they did fine overall, except for they never moved Profar. And these things, you have to have a trade partner for these things, and it doesn't help when Profar starts to slump. Earlier on in the season, it looked like he was building some trade value, but again, if you get a guy on a 1-year deal just to kind of be a filler, and you got young players coming up behind him, you want to trade him. And so I think at that play, how much the Rockies can control that is quite, it's debatable because it's based on performance, but I think in a perfect world, you got to move him. And the fact that he's still a Rocky after the trade deadline is not good.
The lineup that day on Tuesday was very delayed. We knew San Diego was going to run out 1 through 9, but we didn't with Colorado because
based on everything you thought, he might go back to San Diego because everybody's going back to their old teams, but
that too. Yeah. So there was some kind of deal. I think the player that would have extracted the most value that you have to ask the question is Elias Díaz. Of course, still has 1 more year left. He was the Rockies' lone all-star. Okay, so that's optics. He was the All-Star Game MVP. That's fantastic. That's, maybe you want to put that on the cover of your media guide next year in your programs. That being said, he had the most value.
Agreed.
With the Rockies not going to be a contender next year. Obviously, we know what catchers do behind the plate is a little bit different, and working with a starting rotation and a pitching staff that's still trying to find its way. You do have to say, hey, what happened with Díaz? Did you want to trade him? Did you not want to deal him? What did the offers look like? I think that could have really changed it to that to an A grade, because sure, they get a B based on their previous work in the last 2 off seasons. But I think overall, if you look at the prospects that they got, I'd probably have them closer to a C at the deadline. An A for effort or B for an effort, but a C. They could have gotten a lot more had they dealt Elias Díaz, especially when you consider the fact that the starting rotation next year is still looking a little bit rough. You didn't get a big league piece that you can at least have battle for a spot.
Yeah, they don't get anything big league ready or even near big league ready. You got Double A, I think, is the highest you got out of the ranked prospects that you got back. So yeah, that's a huge problem for the Rockies. Who's going to fill out a rotation the next couple of years? And I agree with you on Díaz. I think that if it was me, I would have shopped him hard, because there's the whole, like you said, there's the whole, working veteran catcher, working with pitchers. I think that's overrated. When you're trying to rebuild, the R word that the Rockies never use, but that's what they're doing. If you're trying to rebuild, I don't look. If I'm trying to rebuild, the development, that's on my coaches more than anything else. And I'm not. I'm gonna stock my system if I've got a valuable piece like Diaz, because he is, like you said, he's probably the most valuable piece they had that could have moved. He's also he also had cachet at the moment because of the All-Star Game MVP award. He by all accounts, by all metrics, he did well. He's been an above average hitter, and he's done better than I think the Rockies ever thought he would do, or anybody ever thought he would do in a Rockies uniform. So, I think the danger and the fear always with the Rockies is that they hold on to people for sentimental reasons, and that's not a good. There's no reason to hold on to a guy so they can put something on your media guide. You know what I mean? This is a business. You're trying to get better. And I think players know that. There's no hard feelings when you let a guy, when you trade a guy. And so just move on with it and go all in on the build, right? Go all in on the rebuild rather than kind of like, tiptoeing around it here and there.
And the fact that there weren't a ton of really good bats that were traded during the deadline.
Exactly. I mean, it was pitching heavy, and even the pitching market was a buyer's or a seller's market. But that's a great point. There were virtually no prominent names on the position player market in this deadline, which is, I think, a testament to how the trade deadline it has been changed by the third wild card being added, and the fact that teams are, more and more teams are in it, which is great for those teams in those markets and for baseball overall, in the sense that it's more exciting. But the trade deadline is less exciting because you've got teams that don't really know if they're buyers or sellers, and having to make tough decisions like the Padres and the Angels, which it's totally backfired on them so far. They've fallen to 7 games out after going winless since the trade deadline. They could have had the Hall of Halls for Shohei Ohtani. So that's going to really hurt them for years, because it doesn't look like they're going to make the playoffs. And even if they do, what are the chances that you go deep? So the trade deadline has fundamentally changed, I think, for the future now. And we saw a lot of that this year.
Yeah, the two phrases you used is the sentimentality and the tough decisions, because again, you can give the Rockies credit for moving guys that they should have moved. So, I don't know how much how much credit you want to give to someone.
Lower the bar, right? I mean, it's like the Rockies, because of how poor decisions that they've made in the past, it becomes, well, let's lower the bar to, did they do what they should have done? And then we start grading on a curve that we shouldn't grade on. That's right.
And we're saying that, well, they didn't make that tough decision that they probably should have in 2021 with Trevor Story and Daniel Bard, rather Trevor Story and John Gray, and in 2022 with Daniel Bard, and maybe even Elias Díaz too, and CJ.
And to be fair, I think with Story, there may very well have been legit concern about his elbow. Yeah. I would have moved him earlier than even that in the season. I would have moved him as soon as Arenado left.
But but you couldn't have traded him. I mean, you and I could have, but they couldn't have, because they had just traded Nolan Arenado, and the optics.
The optics. I mean, they don't. It's like, but who cares? I mean, when it comes to that, it's like, are you going to commit yourself to going all in on? Are you going to pivot right there when Arenado leaves, and you say, look, this is collapsing around us, and we need to pivot to a different direction. And so we're letting. It's kind of like what Dan O'Dowd did when he came. He did a lot of unpopular things. He let the Blake Street Bombers all, virtually, except for Larry Walker, he traded them all, got virtually nothing back, and some of those guys never even played in the big leagues. So that wasn't good. But he made the move that was unpopular because he was like, we need to pivot into a different direction now. I don't agree completely with his premise on what they needed to pivot to, but he did do that. And I think this is one of those times where the Rockies needed to do that. Move on from him. I mean, the fans still come out.
Yeah.
I mean, look, if that theory has been put to the test this year, This is the first team in Rockies history that's going to lose 100 games. Their attendance is up over, now a lot of that is the balance schedule. You get a lot of really interesting teams that people want to come see. But so it doesn't matter how, they're there. And so the idea that, well, the gate's going to suffer because we don't have a star. You don't have a star now. Chris Bryant doesn't play. So all those Bryant jerseys, the only Bryant you see is in the stands, the jerseys, right? So they should have made that move. Then Story, you're gone. We're going to get something good for you right now. When his value was higher than it was when he had the injury. And the injury really, I think, spooked a lot of people, from what I understand. But Gray, there's really nothing you can say about that one. Gray is, maybe you thought you can't take an agent or a player at their word because they can change their mind. They have the right to. And I think there was the sense that he was going to resign, both in the media and within the Rockies organization. And that might have been a good sense. But then again, there's no guarantee of that. And they ended up getting, between Story and Gray, they got one draft pick. So that's just bottom line unacceptable, right? That's what it comes down to.
Mismanagement of assets. And in fact, one of the bigger keys, and two, on top of making a tough decision with Elias Díaz and trading, I don't think the value on Daniel Bard would have been that great. There definitely weren't teams clamoring like they were this time last year.
Yeah, Bard's value just tanked, right? Because just went down. Ever since WBC, man. I think the WBC, that's right. I talked to him a few times. You probably did too. I talked to him a few times about just the anxiety part of things and everything else. Anxiety is not an issue anymore for him. He's beyond that. He took time, and that was great of him to do that. I think that was, and I talked to him about that. I said, that's commendable, because there's a lot of, people that feel like in sports that you're weak because, if you take time to deal with mental health issues, and that's not the case at all. That's a show of strength, because you're like, I'm not gonna put myself and my teammates in a bad spot because my head's not in the right place, and I'm going to get this right. And he did that. Now it's just simply command for him. And, he never had great command. He's never been a guy that thrives on command. He's a guy that thrives on just that filthy movement and getting guys to commit early in the count and swing and miss and put them in bad spots. Guys have been patient. They've been patient with him this year, and that's really hurt. His value tanked. And so, he wasn't going anywhere.
Yeah. Bottom line, if you're looking for a value, you definitely need to make sure you're heading over to Kind Love. That's the spot. That's where you go. Great partner, great local brand. It's one of the first dispensaries in Colorado, established back in 2010. They've cultivated some of the highest quality cannabis in the state, one of the highest quality brands, with some patient grow techniques, patented techniques, authentic genetics, absolutely amazing. And they've got the turbo joint, which is amazing. I know that everyone that's used it, they've used it in different ways. That's the other thing too. There's no wrong way. Some people even like break it up a little bit, put in a bowl if they need to, whatever, blunt, cigarette, figure it out, have some fun with that, of course, responsibly. You do that with the turbo core. It's great. They've got a store, in fact, down in Cherry Creek or North Denver. You mentioned DNVR, and you're actually going to receive exclusive discount of 25% off all Kind Love flower, pre-rolls, and their turbo joint line. Visit their website at kindlove.com for their full extensive menu and online ordering. Again, get this code DNVR, even works for deliveries. Great deal with Kind Love, and a great deal with Shady Rays, because you buy one, you get one free. That's right. Glasses, sunglasses, best independent sunglass company around. They've got over 200,000 five-star reviews online. It's great because if you lose or break your sunglasses, which is so common with sunglasses, that's why some of you out there don't want to go in and quote unquote invest. Well, first off, you're going to buy one, you're going to get one free. If you go to the Park Meadows Mall, you get 50% off 2 or more pairs of polarized shades. But here's the thing, if you lose or break them, they will replace it for you. So you can't beat it. You've got covered all the way around with Shady Rays, and you can get a free refund. Absolutely 100% back, or just get a new pair within 30 days. That's the guarantee with Shady Rays. Make sure you use code DNVR to buy one, get one free over at shadyrays.com. Manny, the thing that I keep coming back to when it comes to the trade deadline, besides, hey, they maybe could have done more, maybe they could have gotten more. It's hard to know at these negotiations what you could have got, what was on the table. But there's something maybe even bigger at stake for the Rockies this year in not maybe going more all in, not making that Diaz deal or Brent Suter or Jurickson Profar, as you said. That's the first overall pick in the 2024 MLB Draft. Now, for anyone that doesn't know, you don't need to have the worst record to get the first pick. In fact, you could have maybe like the 5th worst record because it's a lottery system now. And right now, the Rockies have the highest percentage you can get, 16.5%. That's for the 3 worst teams in MLB, and that's where the Rockies are at right now, the 3rd worst record. They're not going to lose more games than the Royals, who, went on a nice streak there, even sweeping the first place Minnesota Twins. But you could have some teams behind them who sold off even more go past them. We saw it the last 2 trade deadlines where the Rockies were the 4th or 5th worst team in the game, and then they only end up with the 9th or 5th pick overall. So with each trade that you make, even beyond what they had already done, besides increasing the quantity of your prospects and hopefully the quality of those prospects in your farm system, it would have increased the likelihood that not only could they have gotten a 1st overall pick or 2nd or 3rd, whatever it may be, but also the bonus pool money that comes with that for next year's 2024 MLB Draft. And I feel like that is an important element here in this. Whether you lose 100 games or not, look, you are going to help yourself out the more you're going to lose. It's not tanking necessarily, but it is a realization of like, look, what are we playing for this year? Let's help ourselves out. Let's almost take the talent off the field, put some new prospects down in our farm system, increase the likelihood that we're going to have an even better draft next year. And it's really a win-win situation, I feel like, all around for just the players getting traded, going off to winning teams, and more opportunities for young guys in the organization to have playing time up in the big leagues with the Rockies.
Totally agree. And it's not tanking because baseball is cyclical in nature. You build, you win in a competitive window, you rebuild, you win, you rebuild, you win. Rebuild is a word. And because of that, it's not really tanking to say, as part of our rebuild, we're going to sell off pieces because we want younger players for the next wave of for the next competitive window that we're trying to build to. Again, I think what we're kind of dancing around, but to get right to the point, as far as the tying all of it together from what we talked about so far, I think it's the Rockies. You hear this word "all in" sometimes, like Shohei Ohtani. You hold on to Shohei Ohtani, you're all in on 2023. If you're the Angels or the Padres, we're all in, even though we have struggled and all that stuff. The Padres have been all in. That button is stuck in the push position, right? Because they've been all in for years now. Now there's even rumors that they're trying to extend Juan Soto. It's like it's just amazing how much they're throwing money at this thing to try to make it work. But the Rockies and the word all in don't seem to mix. I don't think we see that. I think they've made some productive moves this offseason or this before this trade deadline. They made productive moves. They've converted veteran players into prospects, but all in Diaz, moving more, doing whatever it took to unload Profar for whatever you got back. Just even, like you said, that takes him off the field. And to make it that the side effect of that is you lose more games and you put yourself in a better position, right? You're not trying to lose those games, but you're trying to rebuild. But in the process, that's kind of one of the side effects that you're going to lose. And so you put yourself in a better position there's a reason why they give the worst teams the best shot, the best odds in the lottery. So there's nothing wrong with that, in my opinion. I think that's part of how this all works. And the Rockies just don't seem all in, if that's the word to use. They seem kind of like, yeah, we're moving at our comfort level, at a pace that's our comfort level. And I think that you need to be more aggressive than that. I think you need to, what's the worst that can happen? Is it worse than the last 5 years? 19, 20, 21, 22, and 23. Is it worse? Can you get worse by trying to be more aggressive? I think you got to take a page from some other teams. But you don't have to be the Padres, and you don't have to be the Angels. But you can be the Rockies in a more aggressive mode to try to build a winner sooner rather than later. And I don't think that's what they're doing right now.
And to second your point from a roundabout way of like a devil's advocate, and you say, oh, well, Manny, how are you going all in if you're going all out by trading your player? We're talking about going all in for the future.
Yes.
That being said, Rockies did not go all in 2017 and 2018. If you look at the trade deadline, kind of getting fringier type players. And in fact, in 2018, when they had an even better shot, they took the Dodgers to the brink there. You had Matt Holliday coming out of retirement. You got
Yep.
a third string catcher and Drew Butera again, who contributed and was really nice. Was an important piece that you needed. And then Sungwon Oh, because he was affordable for 2019 and going forward. But those are the only moves that you made. And then DJ LeMahieu, obviously goes off, and you don't show him the bag when he wanted to get more money. Like, there's all in opportunities that are just truly all in.
That's a very,
either.
very good point. All in is not just, all in change. The definition of all in change is based on where you're at, right?
Yeah.
In your process. At that time, 2018 was the time to strike. The iron was hot right there. And even in that off season, like you've just reached the postseason twice, back-to-back years for the first time in franchise history. You've got a young pitching staff that's actually doing well, the best young pitching you've ever had in Colorado. A manager who's gotten the most out of them, even more, I think. I think they overachieved those 2 years because of Bud Black, especially with his work with the pitching staff. And then now's the time. You've got DJ LeMahieu, Nolan Arenado, and Trevor Story, and Charlie Blackmon closer to his peak. Let's just put it this way. If you can't get it done with those guys where they're at and that young pitching staff, look, I'm no GM, but how much was there really to do there? To augment that and supplement what you had already to get to the next level, as in go deeper into October. You get to the wild card game, then you go to the division series. What's the next step? And I think that's a direct, that you can draw a direct line between that and the departure of Nolan Arenado, because Nolan Arenado is that type of guy that, he wants to play for a winner, and he wants to see things moving in a direction that things are going to get better, not worse before they get better, or worse than just stay worse. And I think he saw the writing on the wall, and it was not what he wanted to read. And he just, he kind of pushed his way out for that reason. And then that led to the cascading of everything else. And 5 years in the wilderness for this franchise, where they've kind of been just nebulous. They've been kind of like, they kind of been nothing. They'd have no identity. Now is the time where they need to start building that identity right now. And an all-in approach right now would be to try to accelerate that around people like Nolan Jones and around people like Ezekiel Tovar, guys who have potential and are showing it at the major league level. Support that. Show them that we are all in with you guys. It's you guys. You guys are our guys. You guys are the future. Make it happen, and we'll do everything we can to support you.
Yeah, and as Will points out in our comments here, again, if you're just listening to this as a podcast, great. Go ahead and leave us a review. Let us know what your thoughts are on the show. But if you're able to watch live, or even just watch after the fact over on the DNVR Sports channel on YouTube, you can leave a comment. As Will points out, there was a deal for Real Muto in place, of course. Would have cost Brendan Rodgers. And you go, well, hey,
trade if you look back now, right?
You do, and you say, oh, well, but Real Muto might have left in free agency. Again, you kind of figure it out, and you just say, look, when you have a chance to win a championship, you just have to go for it, and you'll worry about who emerges and who comes out of nowhere.
Yeah, and that's the thing too, is like, again, I'm not a GM. I'm not qualified necessarily to be a GM. I'm just saying what common sense from the outside looking in would dictate. And that's what, for the media, we're on the outside looking in, trying to understand what's going on and analyze that, right? That's what we're here for. Part of why we do what we do. And so from that perspective, it's like, come on, guys, what are you doing here? What's happening? Who are you? What are you trying to build? What's next? And it just seems like there's never enough movement in the right direction. Now it's like you said, the bar had been lowered earlier. That we talked about this earlier in this discussion. The bar had been lowered to the point where it's like, wow, they made the move they should have made, rather than like what it is with most teams, which is, okay, they did what they're supposed to do. Great. But that's what they're supposed to do. What more could be done? Are they pushing in the right direction at the right pace? And I think that's the key. Are the Rockies doing are the Rockies pushing at the right pace, or are they pushing at a leisurely pace that is more comfortable in whatever kind of comfort zone they have with these things? And I wonder how much of it is that they've even been burned in the past. There just seems to be with this team, between free agency, especially with the free agency. But this team overall has just had such a history of being snake bit, for lack of a better term. Some their own making, but some also just outside their control, things that happen outside their control, that they're they're tentative, they're hesitant, they're I wonder if that's part of it. And if that's part of it, they need to get a new, I think, attitude about this. I don't know if that means bringing outside voices in, outside executives in, and say, look, this is how we did things here, and I think it could work here. But if you're not, there needs to be an aggression. There needs to be an urgency. There needs to be. I'm not saying there's no urgency. I'm just saying, is it enough in the direction you're trying to go? Because right now, look, you got nothing to lose at this point. I mean, you are a 100-loss team. You are trying to build for the future. They'll never say the word you rebuild, but that's what they're trying to do. It's clear, and they know that they know that this is a whatever you want. You can call it whatever you want, but it's really just a rebuild. So, bottom line, are you moving with the right sense of urgency in the direction you need to go, or is this? And that's the fear, is that this is going to kind of stagnate if you don't.
Yeah, you mentioned being aggressive and moving at a leisurely pace. Well, some of you out there, your leisurely pace is going to be the Breck Brew Mountain Beach Sour. There's still a month left. I know if you're a teacher or your kids are going back to school, you're thinking summer's over. It's not. And I know it's a little bit cooler outside too this entire week, but still, it is summertime. So celebrate with the Mountain Beach Sour, aromas of fresh pineapple, thirst-quenching sour. It's a vacation in a can. A staycation if you need to. It's fine. Vibrant flavors of tart lime and pineapple blended with sweet notes of guava. Bring a taste of tropics to the high country. It's a Colorado company made with Colorado ingredients, made with renewable energy as well. Head over to breckbrew.com to find a Breck near you. They also have the World Cup going on down at the farmhouse as well. If you want to get down on that, or if you want tickets to a big event going on this summer, you can still get that over at Game Time Tickets. It's fantastic. You use promo code DNVR. You get $20 off your first purchase, or you could just get some major savings, especially when you look at an event closer to the start of that event. So on the day of, you start to notice prices come down 5 hours before the event, even 2 hours to an hour and a half before the event is going to start. Those ticket brokers or people that unfortunately aren't able to make the event, hey, you can take advantage of that and get your seats for 60% less than face value. Basketball, baseball, concerts, you name it, all around. Seats that are courtside behind home plate. It's fantastic because of Game Time Tickets. Again, use that promo code DNVR for $20 off your first purchase. Manny, one of those guys that you're going to need to count on for next year has been looking really solid, Austin Gomber. Because right now, your starting rotation is Kyle Freeland. He's going to get the ball probably on opening day with Marquez and Senzatella still out with Tommy John surgery. We don't even know if Marquez would even technically be a part of this team next year on the 40-man roster, because he does have a team option. So that's a whole saga to unpack. Ryan Feltner, fractured skull. We did get news that he was able to throw a bullpen session in St. Louis, which was fantastic to see. So maybe you get something from him, but you can't rely upon him just yet. You can't even rely upon Monday night's pitcher in Milwaukee, Peter Lambert, just yet, although he is starting to ramp things up just a little bit. He's got enough youth on his side that you hope maybe he can be a back-end pitcher in the starting rotation. But Austin Gomber looked really solid over the weekend on Sunday against St. Louis since July. 3-1 with a 2.50 ERA, including 19 strikeouts to just 5 walks. They really need him to do what he's doing right now. I'm going to give you a new definition of the word MVP for the Rockies in the second half. Most valuable projection. There are guys in the second half that you're going to look at and say, hey, for these final 2 months, this guy needs to step up to really get hyped a little bit about the 2024 product and say, hey, this guy could continue to make strides next season. And I think right now, MVP, most valuable projection for the Rockies in the second half has to be Austin Gomber.
Yeah. So, it's been interesting with Gomber. It's been kind of like this for the last, ever since really he came over, because when you look back to like that first season he was here in 21, he was really good at Coors Field. Mm-hmm. I mean, he had a stretch there where it was like, how is he doing this? This is incredible. Everything was working. And then he fell on some hard times, and then that worsened in 22. And then this year has been very up and down too. But lately he's been very good. The question is, how long can he sustain it? If he can sustain that for any decent length of time, you're going to get your money's worth out of that guy. You're going to get a lot from him, and that's good. When he's on, he's really good. Let's just put it that way. We know that. How much How long he's going to be able to sustain it is the question, and we'll see. We won't be able to see enough of that this year, but it's never a bad thing to go into the offseason on a roll, because that gives you confidence. It's part of the reason why guys who are hurt for a lot of the season try to get back, so they can kind of put at ease their fear, maybe that they've lost a step or that there's something, that's still wrong with the injury. They come back. That's why Brendan Rodgers got back, and he's playing. He got back faster than they thought he would. He's playing, and it's good for him because he can try to go into the offseason with something positive on his mind and kind of a good feeling and confident feeling about his play, rather than being hurt the whole time. It's kind of the same with pitchers. Go in, even though you've had a rough season, go in and try to make it a good September to head into the offseason in a good frame of mind. Beyond that, I think Ezequiel Tovar has proven that he's a major league player. He's going to be staying in the major leagues. He's going to be a player that has a decent major league baseball career. He's not going to be a flash in the pan. He's not going to be a one and done type guy. And that's a big hurdle to pass. That's really good for him. The defense has been there for most of the year. The hitting has come around. You're going to have your peaks and valleys throughout the season when you're a rookie, but I think that he is going to be a good, solid player for a long time. And that's good. Nolan Jones, he's exciting. Just so toolsy. Exciting. It's just, you look at a guy like that and you say, what could he be? And it's like, fans salivate over that sort of thing, because it's like, man, like this guy has the best arm strength in the game, basically. And he's got speed, above average speed. He's got incredible raw power. If he could be consistent, he is going to be a star, not just a slightly above average, league average player. So there's some fun there, in dreaming on that. If you're and what Will says is exactly right. He's like Sam Hilliard, except he's showing more potential than which Sam showed. And that's really true. Hilliard was that guy before. Speed, size. He was bigger than, he was like Larry Walker in terms of how he was built. Just not the skills, not the ability at the big league level. I mean, again, to be fair, who has that? Very few. But Nolan Jones is a second version of that, and he's even bigger and even stronger. The question is he going to make it? So, if you're going to make this work, I've had this mentality for a while now, particularly after doing the project with the Blake Street Bombers, that they need to go back to that style, that strategy of a team, because they focused on pitching. And yeah, that's a good thing. You want to develop your own pitchers. It's the only way to go, right? However, even when you do that, you just got three ranked prospects back, top 30 guys in this trade deadline. You tell me what the odds are of them making it right from A all the way through to the big leagues. And then secondly, to be good. And at some point you have to take, I think, the 30,000 foot view of all of this. Well, 25,000 feet, you're 5,000 closer already. So, and that's actually pun intended. That's actually part of the issue here. You play in an environment unlike any other in baseball. We know that it's hard to win. Even strip out all of the decisions that have been made, good or bad. It's hard to win here, period. So you've got to do something. You need a template, and you need to stick with it for a while, and you need to go for that. The template you have right now is not working. What you need to do is you need to make your home field a true advantage, not a boogeyman. And we've talked about this at length on our Mark and I on our podcast. And we're going to talk about it again. Shameless plug. We're going to have Dante Bichette on tonight. Actually, we're going to do a podcast with him talking about this very thing. And particularly on the hitter side, how to develop hitters, because this ballpark, you should bludgeon them to death here. Win 55 games here at home every year, because you're going to lose 40 on the road. Nobody has shown me anything convincing regarding we can be a good road team. They've had all the personnel. It's not the personnel, because they've had all the different guys over the different timing, or the different eras of this team. You had the Blake Street Bombers. You had Matt Holliday, Carlos Gonzalez. Now these recent guys, Arenado, Story, LeMahieu, Blackman. Guess what? All of the teams are bad on the road. Okay, I'm not talking individual players, but all of the teams
Sure.
overall
The
were
hangover
bad
effect.
on the road. You
Yeah.
can't argue with the numbers. I think they have 4 winning seasons on the road in 31, right? So that's just those are just that's facts. So just own that then. Okay. If that's how it's going to be, we're going to chalk up 40. I would just tell my guys, you're going to lose 40 games on the road. Stop trying to fight it. Just play. Okay. When you go on the road, see if you can win 40. See if you can win a couple of games above, a couple of games above 500. That's the best this team's ever been able to do with some of the greatest players in franchise history. So don't pretend like it's not a thing. Deal with it, own it, and then you better win a lot of games at home. You better own also Coors Field. Make it your. I remember growing up in the Bay Area, we talked at length about this, but I was a Giants fan, so I remember that Roger Craig would, I remember hearing that he would tell his players in the late 80s when those Giants teams were really good. I don't want to hear one complaint by anybody about Candlestick Park. How cold it is, how much trash is flying around on the field. I don't care. How windy, how tough it is to catch a pop-up. Forget about it. You hear it, you're fine. I don't care. Okay, because we're gonna make this place our home field advantage. We're gonna take the fact that people hate coming to play here, and we're gonna use it against them. And that's what needs to happen with Coors Field. I know in talking to
there used to be in the visitors clubhouse, there was a sign saying, welcome to, a mile high, 5,280 feet above sea level, which I thought, that's a good little
it puts it in your mind
trick right there. Yeah.
And I remember Ellis Burke saying, when we got on a plane to come back from a road trip, we'd be like, all right, nightmare on Blake Street. Here we come. Because that they were a nightmare for opposing teams. They took batting practice in the final set because that's when the opposing pitcher stretched. The Bombers all waited till the end because they wanted to give the opposing pitchers a little preview of what's to come. And they would make this was a psychological game they were trying to play. That's what this team needs, a chip on their shoulder. How much would a Rockies fan like to see that? A Rockies team that actually walked tall with a chip on their shoulder, particularly on the hitter side, because literally we're going to bludgeon you. We are going to make this place such a nightmare that you can't wait to get out of here. Not because the games are insane, but because you're exhausted from being beaten over the head. And once we do that, we're going to go and lose on the road. Then we're going to come back and win here. And we're going to win 55 to 60 games and be in the hunt every year. Build a team that can do that.
Nathan would be down for that. He wants to come at the Bombers. Look, the bludgeoning on Blake Street, like make that happen. And now too, of course, there's a designated hitter. So, Dante Bichette, obviously you look at his career numbers.
This would be his era, right?
Oh, it would have been because obviously defensive metrics, he got hit a lot for that. You'll have to ask him tonight too, to see if he's going to be coming out the beginning of next month. Because Toronto,
well, he will be here in the middle of the month because they're honoring all those guys. So they'll be here.
That's right.
But he might be here earlier, but yeah. So, I talked to John Smoltz for the book and I said, because of that 95 playoffs, and I wanted to get his perspective. He's like, we were scared to death. Mm-hmm. He was very candid. He said, 2-3 format. We got to go there. It was weird because the higher seed has to go play 2 at the lower seed, the first year of the wild card. And then we got to come back home. And they had us. They threw 2 games away and we could have been down 2-0 and then good luck winning 3 in a row in Atlanta. The Rockies did take 1 in Atlanta. Bottom line is they're like, he said that team, he compared that lineup to the Cleveland lineup that year with Manny Ramirez, Jim Thome, Kenny Lockman, Albert Bell, all of those guys, that massive lineup that they won 100 games in a strike shortened season because of the lineup. And I said, how, really? That's interesting. He said, yeah, because you put a DH to the Rockies, give a DH to the Rockies. And I don't know which one's better. They prepared us for that World Series win over the when we played Cleveland to win the World Series. And so you know what? Even if it doesn't work out, wouldn't it feel better? Wouldn't it feel better to be confident?
I think a lot of fans would agree with that.
Wouldn't it feel better to be confident rather than always worrying about the boogeyman that is Coors Field? That, oh man, the game's going to get out of hand. Oh no, here we go again. Coors, the meme would actually turn into something positive.
Exclamation point.
Rather than something usually completely negative because like, oh, great. So, I mean, that's just, and it's not easy to do that. But Bill Schmidt is trying to do is turn around the Titanic while it's sinking based on what happened before that, right? Based on the carnage, for lack of a better way to put it, of the previous few years. And so it's not easy. You can't just do it, that quickly, but that's the direction I think I would go in. And that would involve free agency. Go get a bunch of hitters. Don't spend them on Chris Bryant. Don't spend them on aging hitters who have an injury list, an injury history, and don't spend them on guys who don't have a position.
We got to work. We got to work on this metaphor too, because I think there's a lot of fans who are jumping ship off the sinking boat there. So we could use that. Look, I want to briefly just touch on the Brewers series here. Peter Lambert tonight against Freddie Peralta. Monday, 6:10 start Mountain Standard Time. Kyle Freeland back on the bump against Wade Miley. Love seeing two lefties against each other. And then Chris Flexen, third start. Let's see if he can be more like his second start rather than his first start, going against Adrian Hauser at 12:10. Susie will be around for a post-game show. You wrote over on MLB.com about interesting matchups this week. Elly De La Cruz against Yuri Perez.
Fun.
Reds Marlins. When was the last time anyone ever got excited about Reds Marlins? Right. This might be a first in the history of baseball.
Best pitching prospect in the game, 20 years old. I think he set a record of in the live ball era for a pitcher that young to have an ERA as low as he had in his first 11 starts, 2.36. And they just sent him down to manage his workload. He's back, and that's exciting for them. They need it because they've been kind of reeling. Same with the Reds. The Reds need a spark as well. But it's fun when teams like that are relevant again, and they're in the playoff chase, and that's really what, again, the third wild card does. So that's fun. But yeah, Elly De La Cruz, man, that guy's incredible. I mean, we thought O'Neal Cruz was
right.
This guy is more than that. This guy is O'Neal Cruz, but better, which is a lot to say. And enjoy that while it lasts. It's fun to watch. We're living in an exciting time in terms of baseball, being a baseball fan. I mean, with what Ohtani's doing, we'll never see it again. How fortunate are we to be the generation that gets to watch Shohei Ohtani out of all the 100 years before since Babe Ruth? It's us. And Shohei Ohtani is doing more than what Babe Ruth did. Babe Ruth pitched. He could have maybe done more, but because he was converted completely to full-time hitter. So that's great. Elly De La Cruz got young stars like that. It's just very exciting. Ronald Acuna is showing us what Eric Davis might have done a little bit. And so that's fun.
You like Eric Davis? Anyway, moving on.
He's all right.
Hey, you mentioned Ohtani. That's a big one too. Giants, Angels. This is a series for the Giants to show the Angels, or rather to show Shohei Ohtani, well, winning culture could be like, this could be that series that plants the seed. Yeah, exactly. Where Ohtani's like, I might want to go somewhere else. And then you also have got the Orange Bowl, as you pointed out. I came up with that phrase. The Orange Bowl, Astros, Orioles. Great test for Baltimore. Looks like Verlander's probably going to miss this series, but he could go on Friday. It could go on Thursday if they move back Hunter Brown. But
Astros Orioles is going to be a nice postseason preview. Could be a postseason preview. I mean, the Orioles are so fun because they're legitimately a powerhouse now, and that was not necessarily something that we would have said after they go 83-79 and surprise everybody. And it's like, oh, well, this is a fun story. Let's watch these guys. It'll be fun to keep tabs on them. Now they've won 70 games, their first team to 70 wins. The Astros are always there, right? They are always in the hunt for the AL West. Even if guys like Altuve go down and Yordan Alvarez, they weather the storm and they're back. Those guys are back. It's going to be a fun series to watch these two go at it because it's definitely an October preview, I think.
Did both those teams go outside their organization for a new general manager and revolutionize how they did business to get to where they're at? Can't recall. Did they?
I don't know. I'm trying to think about it, but it seems like the opposite of what has happened around here. And look, if even if they wanted to stay internal with it, if they were making more aggressive strides, what does it matter if it's an outside person or not? But the whole idea that they're being very insular will never die. That notion will never die unless they start doing those kinds of things and acting and making those kinds of moves where it's like we're changing the way we do business, even though it's the same, a lot of the same people in the organization.
Yeah. All right, Manny, go ahead. Be aggressive. Plug away about your podcast. You're writing on MLB.com, all that. Because you and Mark like to be aggressive in a good way.
Yeah. We thank you for the chance to do that. The Park Adjusted Rockies podcast. We try to do it every week, and we love talking. We love getting, it's always Rockies related, but we also kind of get into bigger picture baseball things as well. We'll have Dante on this next week, and we'll, we've had guys like, the rest of the Bombers on. Sometimes we'll go and get guys like former teammates of Mark's, because and those are some of my favorite because I get to make fun of Mark for, all of his pitching days, Yeah, so it's a weekly. You can find it. Just Google Parker Just About Rockies Podcast. You'll find it in all the various places you get your podcasts. And MLB.com. Just follow me on Twitter, Manny on MLB. That's where I post stuff. So that's usually the easiest place to find stuff. Got something fun coming out on Wednesday related to King Griffey Jr. So that'll be fun. And so look out for that. So that's what I've got going on.
That's good stuff. And then maybe episode 1000 with Andres Galarraga, the white whale.
Yeah, man. I don't know if anybody knows how to get a hold of Andres Galarraga. Let me know, man. He's the one guy that I haven't found, and nobody else that I know has found. So hopefully he's doing well. But he's, they told me I should go golf course hopping in Florida to find him. Probably run into him somewhere. But so maybe I'll have to do that at some point.
It's DB Cooper, Jimmy Hoffa, and Andres Galarraga. No one knows where those three guys are. Where are they?
Yeah, it's gonna be a documentary at some point on Andres Galarraga. I mean, like what happened to the man? So, yeah, because I mean, even with stuff like that's gonna happen next month with honoring the alumni, he's not there. So
no. Well, if you or anyone knows anything about the whereabouts of
call
Andres
this number. No.
Hit us up on Twitter at DNVR_Rockies. I'm at Patrick D. Lions on Twitter. Manny, this has been momentous as always. We appreciate that.
Always fun. Thanks for having me, man.
You're giving us. Yes. Always great chatting and chopping it up with you. But unfortunately, as you know, in baseball and podcasting world, that momentum, it's only as good as your next show. So, of course, Susie will be back tomorrow live from the DNVR.
There's a lot of pressure on Susie.
It is, but she always delivers 1 p.m.
There you go.
right here on the DNVR Sports Channel live on YouTube.